Writing. The old train station had been abandoned for nearly 20 years. Every evening, Daniel walked past it on his way home from work. The cracked walls, rusted tracks, and broken windows reminded him of things people forgot. In many ways, he felt the same. At 42, his life had become a routine of silence. He lived alone in a small apartment, worked at a repair shop, and spent his evenings staring at photographs of a family that no longer existed. 10 years earlier, his wife Emma had died in a car accident. Their daughter Lily had been only 8 years old. After Emma's death, grief swallowed Daniel whole. He became distant, cold, and emotionally unavailable. Eventually, Lily left to live with her grandparents in another state. At first, Daniel promised himself he would visit her every month, then every few months, then once a year. Eventually, they stopped talking altogether. The guilt never left him. One rainy evening, Daniel noticed something unusual near the abandoned station. A small girl sat alone on a wooden bench beneath the shelter. She couldn't have been older than 10. Her dark hair was soaked from the rain. Daniel hesitated before approaching. "Where are your parents?" he asked. The girl looked up calmly. "I don't have any." The answer struck him like a stone. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. "I live at the shelter nearby." Daniel looked around. No one else was there. "You shouldn't be here alone." "I'm waiting." "For who?" She smiled. "For someone who needs me." Daniel almost laughed, but something in her expression stopped him. There was a strange certainty in her eyes. Over the following weeks, he kept seeing her, always at the station, always waiting. Her name was Sophie. Sometimes they talked for a few minutes, sometimes for an hour. She asked questions nobody else asked. "Do you miss your wife every day?" "Why don't you talk to your daughter?" "What are you afraid of?" The questions irritated him, but they also forced him to confront truths he had buried. One afternoon, Sophie handed him a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" he asked.
"A challenge."
Daniel unfolded it. Written in childish handwriting were 3 words. "Call your daughter." His chest tightened instantly. "No." "Why not?" "Because she hates me." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Sophie shook her head. "No, you know you're ashamed." Daniel stared at her. No adult had ever spoken to him so honestly. Yet hearing those words from a child felt impossible. That night he couldn't sleep. At 2 in the morning he found Lily's number. His hands trembled. He called. The phone rang 4 times. Then a voice answered. "Hello?" Daniel froze. Lily's voice. Older, stronger, different. He almost hung up. "Dad?" Tears filled his eyes. "Hi, sweetheart." Silence followed. A silence carrying years of pain. Years of missed birthdays, missed graduations, missed conversations. Then Lily whispered, "I've waited a long time for this call." Daniel broke down crying. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel everything. Weeks later, Lily agreed to meet him. The reunion was awkward at first. Neither knew what to say. But slowly walls began to fall. Apologies were spoken. Tears were shared. Healing started. One evening, Daniel rushed to the station to tell Sophie the good news. But she wasn't there. He returned the next day. And the next, still nothing. Concerned, he visited the nearby shelter. A worker greeted him. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Sophie." The woman frowned. "Sophie?" The little girl, dark hair.
"About 10 years old."
The woman's expression changed. Then she walked toward a filing cabinet. After several moments, she returned holding a photograph. Daniel's blood turned cold. The girl in the picture was Sophie. "Where is she?" he asked. The worker looked confused. "Sir!" "Sophie died 6 years ago." The world seemed to stop. "What?" "There was an illness. She didn't survive." Daniel stared at the photograph. His heart pounded violently. "No, that's impossible." The worker nodded sadly. "She was loved by everyone here." Daniel left the shelter feeling dizzy. Nothing made sense. He had spoken with Sophie. He had laughed with her. She had changed his life. That night he searched through old records online. Everything confirmed the same truth. Sophie had died years ago. Daniel sat alone in his apartment until sunrise. Part of him wanted a rational explanation. Another part didn't care. Whoever Sophie had been, she had saved him. Months passed. Daniel and Lily grew closer. For the first time in over a decade, he felt hope returning. Then one autumn morning, Lily called. "Dad?" Her voice shook. "What's wrong?" "I'm pregnant." Daniel smiled. Then he heard her crying. "Why are you upset?" "The doctors found complications." Fear instantly replaced joy. The following months were filled with hospital visits and uncertainty. Every test brought new worries. Every phone call carried fear. One night, Daniel found himself walking toward the abandoned station again. The place looked exactly the same. Empty, silent, forgotten. He sat on the old bench where Sophie used to wait. The wind whispered through the broken windows. Daniel lowered his head. "I don't know if you're real," he said quietly. "I don't know what happened back then." His voice cracked. "But if you can hear me, please help my daughter." Tears rolled down his face. For a long time, nothing happened. Then he noticed something beside him, a folded piece of paper. His breath caught. With trembling hands, he opened it. 3 words. "Have faith, Daniel." The handwriting was unmistakable. The same childish letters, the same style, the same Sophie. Daniel cried harder than he ever had before. Not from fear, from hope. Months later, Lily gave birth to a healthy baby girl. The doctors called it remarkable, a miracle. When Daniel first held his granddaughter, emotion overwhelmed him. The tiny child opened her eyes and stared directly at him. For a moment his heart stopped. Those eyes, they looked exactly like Sophie's. Warm, kind, wise beyond their years. Lily smiled. "We've chosen a name." Daniel looked up. "What is it?" "Sophie." His lips trembled. "Why?" Lily laughed softly. "I don't know. The name just felt right." Daniel hugged his daughter tightly. Outside the hospital window, sunlight filled the sky. For years he had believed his life was defined by loss, by regret, by mistakes that could never be repaired. But now he understood something different. Life was not measured by the moments we fall apart. It was measured by the courage to keep loving after heartbreak, to keep hoping after disappointment, to keep opening our hearts after loss. As he held little Sophie against his chest, Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace. Not because life had become perfect, not because pain had disappeared, but because he had finally learned that love never truly leaves. Sometimes it returns in unexpected ways. Sometimes it arrives through strangers. Sometimes it waits patiently at an abandoned station until we're ready to listen. And sometimes it comes back as a tiny heartbeat resting in your arms, reminding you that every ending can become the beginning of something beautiful.